Hello, welcome to my talk, and thank you for being here. Today I'm talking about another three images that continue along the theme of the 1820 settlers and their arrival in present day Eastern Cape. And in particular, the first image is quite a personal one, personal aspect to the story. The, the caption reads Southwell, Southwell, one of the many centres in which 1820 settlers were placed, and where my ancestor, Robert Newton Dunn, settled before leaving the Eastern Cape for Port Natal and present day Durban in 1834. Albany Zierveld. And I've alluded in an earlier talk to my discovery that I was, my full cognizance that I was 1820 settler descendant, and my disclosure to Nkosi Makenini in kind of an admission of guilt almost. I'm actually quite proud of my ancestry. I don't have, you know, um, um, those kind of issues. I don't have any issues with the British people. I have serious issues with the British government, imperial government, to this day, then and now. And I think so did my ancestors, uh, Robert Newton Dunn, and certainly his son John Dunn, and um, and as brown people have good reason to continue in that proud tradition. So Southwell, I discovered by accident. Well, I was helped by because I hadn't done this kind of homework by Professor Julie Wells, who was indispensable in as the head of the historian at Rhodes University, and where I had a fellowship that helped produce this work, Unsettled, without which the irony again, philanthropy, is something I quite frankly detest. But yes, the Mellon Foundation, and I'm entitled to have complicated views about these kind of things, complex rather, that one has to rely on philanthropy of that sort to produce work like this. But I'm thankful for both the fellowship and a possibility of meeting somebody like and working with somebody like Judy Wells, who said, yes, your ancestors were placed in Southwell. Um, so it's like, oh, so let's visit Southwell, because I'm in that story. And it's a place like if you blink, you miss it. it's it's a it's not even a village. It's just like it's not even really a settlement. So I found this kind of what used to be a general dealer store, um, and um, and it's an interesting area. More interesting is the encounter that happened like a month before I discovered that I was. Southwell was where my ancestors had settled. I'd actually just a month after I had discovered that it was Southwell, because at some point, most of the time, I'd never known this where they were. As I said, it's not something that interested me. I didn't research it. Um, I um, I sorry, let me just sort this out. I was in Bathurst, and I'll be talking about Bathurst in a few of the next images, which is 20 kilometers away from Southwell. Having a pizza en route somewhere on these projects on looking for these places as I was photographing on this project, and there was a kindly old gentleman there with what appeared to be his grandchildren, his granddaughters, treating them to a pizza as well, and he was very intrigued by me for some reason. Now, South Africa, we have our own assumptions as to why, and he struck up a conversation, and so I hadn't actually thought about uh, too seriously about how I would present myself to South Africans will understand this, to a white demographic with the specific intention of that I was trying to do with this project. So I hadn't really thought how to respond in that way. So I just said, I'm interested in the 100-year war, and he was excited because it is a big topic in the Eastern Cape. Um, well versed, well rehearsed, and established tourist industry for British people, mostly coming from Britain, coming to explore this history with all the military activity that took place. I've discovered, I made a documentary on Rorke's Drift, that there is this, uh, the Brits love, they're all implicated in the military history somehow, and they love to go and see where their ancestors fought and were stationed and where their regiment was, and relive those heroic tales of how they faced the great hordes of the savages and tamed the world, whatever. Yeah. So he had some interest, and he said, my wife's written a book about the, um, the South Wales um, um, settlers. And correction, I at that point did not know that that South Wales was the point at which my ancestors had been settled. So I was ignorant of that fact. I learned that a month or so later. So so then he asked me, and then I said, actually, I happen to be a descendant of 1820 settlers. It was also just, like, it just came, I blurted it out. And he was a bit perplexed because, yeah, I do present as not as white, as mixed for South Africans who are discerning in their own way of seeing who's who in the zoo. And he was taken aback, and he said, "Who are your ancestors?" And I said, "Well, they were Robert Newton Dunn and Bigger." And his eyes went large, and that was the end of the conversation. And I thought, wow, that was a bit weird. What was that about? So I discovered later that he knew well because his wife had written a book about the settler party, about who Robert Newton Dunn was. And he might have thought that I might be wanting to do a lands claim or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's Southwell, and that's the beginning of the end of that story. And because I don't have interests in land claims and those kind of stuff, but the British certainly did. And and the yeah, um, this third image, the caption reads toposcope, toposcope, from which point 1820 settler farms were surveyed and families dispersed to their various allotments. Bathurst. If you visit Bathurst, visit this site. It's a great vantage point anyway to just look out. You don't see that very uh, clearly. I'll try and show. Hopefully, the image I'm showing has um, a better reproduction of the image than the book that I'm looking at. But that horizon um, is just over that horizon is Grahamstown, so Makana today. And so the latest technology that was being used there by the British was to, like, allocate the allotments. Um, and the vantage point used was this one in which to do so. And to establish the um, conquest of the territory of, once again, of the vanquished um, territory once occupied by the Ndlambe people, Xhosas, and ethnically cleansed of them, with people like my ancestors, Robert Newton Dunn, and the 5,000 other 1820 settlers who came, as well as, of course, the British military that oversaw the whole operation uh, and uh, ensured the success of the project. So I'll end it here for now and say thank you for watching. And more information on myself and my work can be found on my website, a link to which, including my blog and email address, can be found in the video description below. If you like this talk, remember to click the like button and press subscribe. It helps the channel grow.